Hey everyone, welcome to Data Millennials. I'm Atul, and in this video we are going to see how we can create and customize stack combo chart in Data Studio. So before we go ahead and create this stack combo chart from scratch, we need to understand what exactly is a stack combo chart. So a stack combo chart is sort of a stack bar chart or a column chart. They look like a series of columns, as you can see over here, or bars that are stacked on the top of each other. Stack charts are an incredible effective tool for comparisons when used correctly. So there is a catch when you're using the stack combo chart, and the catch is that whenever you're using this stack chart, you have to make sure that you are comparing something. So that's why stack chart are incredible tool for comparisons only. They are designed to compare the total values across categories. So whenever you want to compare total values of any category, then you're supposed to use this stacked combo chart. The columns and bar charts are used to compare different items or identify changes over the period of a time. But if you see combo charts allow you to draw attention to a specific segment of data, and this stacked combo chart gives you all of the display capabilities of column, bar and stack chart with an added line to highlight a particular trend, as I have shown it over here, right? So let's go and create a combo chart in our Looker report. In order to create the combo chart, what I'm going to do first is that I'm going to click on this edit button so that I can get into edit mode. And first of all, what you need to create a combo chart is a data source. If you have added your data source, then you will be able to add any of the charts. But if you have not added any data source, then I will also show you how you can add a data source in your report. So let me delete this chart first, or let me add another page in which I'll create this combo chart from scratch. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this data that I have over here, in which I have country names, and basically I'm using this country name, then I'm using the internet hosts, or let's say I will be using internet users, mobile phone users and landline users. So for each country we have these three matrices, and I want to show these three matrices or compare these three matrices on a chart. So the best option to compare these matrices is the stack chart, because as you can see over here, I have phone, then there is another segment in phone which is landline. So if I want to compare mobile phone versus landline phone, it's better to use a stacked combo chart. So let's go to our Looker page, and here in order to add a combo chart, what you need to do is that you need to go to your navigation panel over here, then you have to go into add a chart section. When you go into your add a chart section, then you will see under this line you have this stacked combo chart. This is the second option in your line. If you click on it, then you will be able to add a stacked combo chart on your empty report page. So let's put it over here. And before we go ahead, let's copy this header from here and paste it here so that it will be visually appealing for us. Now I have added a combo chart, but as you can see over here, that in matrices I have record count, ISO number and geo name ID, which by default Looker has added for us. What we can do is that we can add, or we can go through each and every option that is available over here in setup and style, and we'll discuss it in detail. So the first thing that I want to do is that I want to show my graph at a country level, right? So I have to add country name over here, which is already added by Looker. But in order to get this country name, what I need is a data source. So suppose you have added a data source earlier in your report, and by default your stack combo chart will use that data. But suppose if you want to change your data source, then what you can do is that you can click over here, and then you will have a lot of options to add your data source. And in case you have not loaded your data source onto Looker, what you can do is that you can click over here, add a data. Once you click on that, then Looker will allow you to go through their connectors and add any type of data. So I'm using Google Sheets, so I can select Google Sheet over here. Then I can go to my spreadsheet and I can select any of my worksheet from here. But as I have already added the data over here, and I'm going to use this GDS 18 dataset which I have shown you over here, GDS 18. So let's go and start updating the dimension and matrices value for this stacked combo chart. So the first option, data source, we have discussed. The next option that we have is date range dimension. So this date range dimension will always have a field that has date values. If your data source have any column in which there is appropriate or correct date format values, then by default Looker will take that column and put it over here as date dimension. But in case if your data doesn't have any date dimension, then it will be blank. Now moving on, we have dimensions. So this is the dimension or the category or the field through which you want to show your data. So for us, I want the country name only, so I'll select country name here. Now there is an option of drill down. If you want to drill down your dimension at another level, for example, if you have country name, then you have capital, then you have city, then you have town, what you can do is that you can add a list of drill down options or the columns over here, and once you go to your graph as a viewer, you can click on this drill down option over here. In view mode, I can show you that you have a drill down option over here. If you click on that and your drill down option is on, then you will be able to drill down further more into your graph. So from country level, then you will go to capital level and the data will be shown at a capital level. Then again, if you have a drill down option, then you will be able to go to the city level. So let's go back here. In my data, I do not have capital specific numbers in my matrices, so I won't be showing over here. So let's switch off this drill down option. Now the next option that we have is matrices. This is where you want to put your matrices which you want to compare in your graph. For example, here I have to show a comparison between mobile phone users versus landline users, and a trend line that I want to show is the internet users. So the first matrices that I'm going to select is my phone users. So I have phone, mobile over here. Now the second matrices that I'm going to use is the landline users. So I'm going to select landline. And the third matrices that I'm going to use is my internet users. So as you can see, right now this graph doesn't make any sense, right? But it will start making sense once we tweak a little of the style of the combo chart. So let's go down. If you have any optional matrices, then you can put it over here by switching it on, and you can add the additional matrices. For us, we are not going to add any additional matrices over here. Then we have a matrix slider. If you want to add a matrix slider, for example, if I've switched it on and if I go back to my view section, then you can see over here we have an option says matrix sliders. Now if I click on it, then you will see that all of these three matrices are present over here, and I can slide my matrices basically, and based on the range selection, the entire data will get reflected or will get updated in your graph or chart. And I can do this for all of the matrices that I have selected. So let's clear it and go back to our edit the page. So we'll switch off this matrix slider, or let's keep it over here. Now the next option that we have over here is sort. If you want to sort your graph or chart based on a particular matrices, then you can do it. Or if you want to sort your chart based on country name, you can do it. But it's always suggested that you should sort your chart or graph either in ascending or descending order of a categorical variable, or based on the highest number of a matrices. So let's select mobile phone over here and in ascending order. Okay. Now if you want to add a filter For this particular graph and chart, you can add from here, where you just have to click on add a filter. Then you have an option to create a filter. If you have already created a filter, then you can select from here. But if you want to add a filter, you can click over here, create a filter. Then the first thing that you need to do is that you need to put a filter name. Okay, so suppose I want to filter out India from this graph. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put a name, says filter India. Then I have an option of include and exclude. So I have to exclude India from this graph. So I'm going to select exclude. Then on which field I'm going to put a filter. So Looker is asking me that on which field you want to put a filter. So I'm going to select that field. For me, it is country name. Then it's asking me for a condition. So which based on which condition you want to filter. So I'm just going to select equal to. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to filter out the data for this graph where I just want to exclude India from my country name. So I'm just going to put India over here, and then if I click on save, you will see that your data or your graph chart will not contain that country. Now let me remove this filter so that we can have all the data over here. Okay, let me show you. So as you can see over here, we have Germany, Japan and India, right? And I have filtered out India from here, sorry, Germany, Japan and China. Okay, and I have filtered out the India based on this filter which I have applied. Now if I remove this filter, you will see that India will start appearing over here. So let me remove this filter. As you can see, after Japan, India is here, and then there was China. Okay, so let's move to the style section. So the first series, when you see over here, the first option is series 1. So the first matrices that we selected was mobile phone, and we want that mobile phone to be a bar column. So what I'm going to select is that going to select this pubs and bar. Okay, now the next option that I'm going to select is the series color. If I want to change the series color, I can do it from here. Now if you want to show your data cumulative, then you can select this option cumulative, and for each country it will start adding the previous country values and it will show you on your graph. But for us, it's not required to show the cumulative value, so I'll uncheck it. And if you want to show the data labels, you can click this button and your data label will start appearing over here. As our data is quite huge over here, that's why our data labels are not appearing over here correctly or in a better way. So let's remove this show data label. Now for our second matrices, we had selected phone landline, right? So I'm also going to select this pubs and bar because I want to compare the phone landline versus phone mobiles. So it's good enough that Looker has by default selected it as pubs and bar, right? If you want to change the color, you can change it from here. All of these options are similar as we had discussed in series 1. Similarly, series 3. So series 3 is the internet user. So for this internet user series, I want to put it as a line. Okay. Now as you can see over here that this internet user has the highest numbers, right? If I go to my view part and if I show you over here, this phone versus landline makes sense, but this internet users are not making sense because there is a huge number in internet users as compared to phones and landline. That's why your phone bar and your landline bar is not appearing correctly over here. It's appearing over here in a very small bars. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put a filter for China and I'm going to put a filter for Japan. So let's go back, and we had added the filter for India, right? So instead of that filter, I'm just going to add this filter and update it. So let's rename it as filter China Japan, exclude name as China, and exclude country name which is equal to Japan. and I'll click save. Even after filtering, you can see that we have some of the countries which has very high value, or we can say outliers, right? So we need to remove all of these outlier countries. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's remove internet user from our matrices and put internet hosts. Okay, so you can see that internet hosts is much lower as compared to internet users. Okay, moving on. So for our internet hosts, as you can see over here, I want this internet host as a line graph. So I have to select series 3 as line graph. Now if I want to increase the line width, I can do it from here. Let's put it as 5. Okay, and show points. And if you want to change the axis of this line graph, you can do it from here. You can put it as right. Let's reduce the size to 2. Okay, and if you want to put the line graph as a smooth line graph, then within this general section you can select this smooth, and you will see that the line graph will be smoothened. So let's move. So our axis is left right now. By default the axis will be selected as left. So if you want to change the axis, you can change it from here. If you select right, then the entire axis will move from left to right. So it's always better, or most often people are habitual to see the graph from left to right, so it's always useful to select left as a default. Now if you want to add a reference line over here, you can do it. You just have to click add a reference line, and then based on your requirement you can add a reference line for your user to compare the values. The next option that we have is axes, and if you want to show axis value, then you have to keep this button checked, and if you uncheck this button, you will see that all the axes value will be hidden from the graph. So it's always better to keep this option checked. Now if you want to reverse the y-axis direction, you can select this option. Similarly, if you want to reverse the x-axis direction, you can check this button. So just for experimentation, let's check this reverse x-axis direction. So once you checked it, you will see that the x-axis has been reversed over here. So let's undo it. Now if you want to show your axis title for y-axis, then you can check this button, and you will be able to see that the y-axis label will appear here, and based on your requirement you can change the minimum and maximum values which is appearing over here in your y-axis from this option. Similarly, if you want to custom the intervals, for example here 200 million, then 400 million is the values. If you want to put a custom values that it get incremented by 1000, 1 million or 100 million or 200 million, you can do it. You can put the values over here, and then you will be able to see that your y-axis value which is showing over here will be incremented based on the value which you have put it over here. Now if you want to change your stacked column chart into log scale, then you can select this option, and your stacked chart will get plotted on the log scale. Okay, the next option that we have is right y-axis. So you have the similar option for right y-axis which we discussed, right? And then we have x-axis. So similar, if you want to show axis title, you can check this option and you will have axis over here. Then we have an option of grid for axis color. If you want to change the axis color, you can change it from here. And the next option that we have is the grid color. If you want to change this grid color, these lines, then you can change it from this option which is grid color. Now I just don't like these grids which is present over here, so let me do one thing. I'll just make it transparent so that you will have a white space on which the graph will be plotted. If you want to change the axis font size, label font size, you can do it from here. Similarly, if you want to change the chart background, you can do it from here. For example, if I'm selecting this color, or let's select some other color. So you can change your background from this option, and if you want to change the border color, you can change it from here, right? Similarly, you have another option with the legends, that if you want to change the legend font color, what will be the font size, then font family, and where do you want your legends to be appeared. This is, if you do not want to appear your legend on the graph, then you can select this option. If you want to put your legends on right hand side, then you can select this option. This is the bottom. If you select this, then your legend will be moved to bottom, and right now by default it will be selected on the top. And this is the legend alignment. So by default Looker will always select left. If you want to put it into center, you can select over here. Similarly, if your legends has, suppose you have selected 10 or 15 different matrices in your chart, and you want to show those legends in 2 different line, or 3 different line, or 5 different line, then you can change the maximum lines using this option. I can put 5 or 15 over here. So based on your requirement, you can change the legends specification from under this style section, under this legend. Now the last option that we have over here is the background and border. If you want to change the background, then you can select option from here. Similarly, you have the option for border radius of this chart, then opacity of this chart, and you have border color. If you want to change the border color, you can change it from here. Similarly, you have an option for border weight and border style. You can change or update all the background and border specifications from this part. So if I go to my view section, I can see that this is a better graph to compare the values. So this blue color or light blue is my landline and deep blue is my mobile, right? So I can simply say, looking at this graph, that Belarus has high number of mobile phone users as compared to the landline users. So you see, this is the small area over here for landline, and then we have a higher or larger area for the mobile phone. So mobile phone users are much more as compared to the landline user in that specific country. So this is how basically you can create and customize your stacked combo chart in Looker. Happy learning, and see you in the next video.